This is a question for you, Jonny. Who's your greatest ever cyclist? And is Geraint Thomas in the running for it?
See, what you're doing here is you're opening up a can of worms.
Oh, yeah.
It's confusing.
Welcome back to the Spin Cycle Podcast, everybody. I'm Caley Fretz. Today on the show, how to make an interesting bike race, a speed bump in a sprint, chapeau to Geraint Thomas, and Tadej Pogačar is washed. Let's get to it. Welcome back, Jonny Long.
Hello. Good morning.
It's good to see you. I appreciate your background today. We got the tour poster. We got more books.
I'm finally being company compliant with company wardrobe, but there's something happened with my merch delivery, which we'll talk about in After Dark today. Something unexpected.
Uh-oh,
indeed.
Welcome, Kit Nicholson.
Hello. I've just dressed my closet as Escape Collective. I don't know.
The official Escape Collective closet.
Yeah. I figured it's a free pass to wear my own clothes. Put the jersey behind me.
You figured correctly.
All right, friends, let's get to it. Let's talk about because we actually need to get right to it because we're the first topic of today is a bike race that is actively happening on a screen to my right. Clásica Jaén, Paraíso Interior. Spanish is not my specialty. We misstain. Anyway, this race is happening right now. So we actually can't tell you who wins. But who wins is kind of not what we're here to talk about, right? I think what we're here to talk about is the fact that this race is sweet. And we turned it on this morning. And there's been a lot of like UAE Tour and things in the Middle East. And like even, and I say this with much love for the Tour Down Under because I've been a bunch of times and it's a super cool event. Like if you're a fan, it's one of the best event experiences I can imagine. But from like watching on television, slightly less so. And this race, Clásica Jaén, which is basically, for those who aren't aware of it, it's sort of like a Strade Bianche like ripoff. Started in 2022, and so it's only a couple years old, and it's already, every time you turn it on, just fantastic racing. So I just wanted to start with a sort of discussion of like what they made a new bike race work. And as all we talk about, 1 cycling and 2 cycling and 3 cycling and 4 cycling, what makes this bike race work? Why is it so good?
It's fun cycling. It's gravel.
Was that intentional?
Yes, it was.
Okay.
Childish humor. I think it's got hills and it's got gravel. Strade Bianche works. It's a formula that works. It also has the benefit of being in a part of the world where you are probably rarely going to get horrible rain, and because the stormy rain kind of comes in the summer, really. I mean, I might be talking on my arse here, but they're in Spain. They're all in their short sleeves.
Are they in the plane?
It would have been.
Well, if they're not in the plane, then there's no rain in Spain, right?
Well, there we go. Yes, sorry, I took a minute to get there. Well, right now, sadly, they are riding along a motorway, so it is looking a bit more like UAE than usual. But they have been riding through, vineyards, and I don't know. Maybe you just need to have good wine and food in the area to get good racing.
Well, and here's the thing: is like it looks like a bunch of big name riders actually care, right? And this is always sort of the trick. This was the trick with Strade Bianche quite early on. We had like Fabian Cancellara go after it and win it, right? And like you had these sort of the biggest names of the time placed it within their calendar as something that they cared about. And that, I'm not saying that they don't care about UAE Tour. Like I'm sure Jonathan Milan, my pick as the sprinter of the year, who won a stage of UAE already, I'm sure he cared about his victory at the UAE Tour. But like the front of this race right now, we've got Wout van Aert, we've got Sepp Kuss, we've got McNulty. Who else is there's a whole Egan Bernal. There's a whole group of pretty big names at the front of this thing. Michał Kwiatkowski is currently in the lead group. Like punching each other over and over and over again in this race that's on a Monday in Spain.
Well, it is well placed
February.
it's well placed in the calendar though, because we've got the UAE Tour right now, but I mean, Wout van Aert is heading to Portugal for the beginning of Algarve, as will probably a lot of these riders. There's also the Ruta del Sol, which starts on Wednesday, which is also, of course, in Spain. So, and rather like the Strade Bianche is bunched with Tirreno and Milan-San Remo. Not that you've got necessarily exactly the same riders going to Strade and Milan-San Remo. It's that kind of, it's being well bunched. It's been well placed. It's not in October with all the French and one days, So it has been craftily handled, and it's probably not a crazy distance from some training destinations as well. So
No. Yeah.
That's what I was going to say, is that if you look, it's about 200 kilometers west of Alicante, where they will just spend all of January. So then if you're on your way to the Algarve anyway, you might as well, stop off en route. All the cars and stuff have got to get there. It's great. It's I kind of like, though, that it is, even though I'm not watching it currently because I'm not signed up to a proper subscription service, and Tiz would.
I'm holding on to the last remnants of what I have available, Jonny.
Found my hill to die on. But on a Monday, it kind of is fun. Like, what else happens on a Monday? Maybe that's part of. Obviously, a Sunday will be better, but especially when you've got the UAE Tour open up on a Monday morning, that I kind of don't mind having the American experience of watching bike racing from like 10 a.m. to midday.
Yeah.
I think this could be an underrated week of bike racing on the calendar, because you eventually, by the end of the week, have 3 concurrently running stage races with the Algarve and the Spanish one that I've literally already forgotten the name.
Ruta del Sol.
Thank you.
Volta Andalusia.
You have the Spanish Strade. Maybe in my top 10 bike racing weeks of the year this week, I'd say.
And as you say, if you look at there's not such a thing as a TV guide in cycling unless you are Joe Lindsay and it's all held in your brain. But if you look at the schedule for this week, it's so perfectly, it's probably not planned out. They don't communicate like that, race organisers. But you've got UAE Tour in the morning, and then you've got Ruta del Sol or Algarve 1 till 3, and then 3 till 5 is the next one. It's just beautiful. It's like being at school, and it's all perfectly arranged for you. It doesn't happen all year.
Ruta del Sol used to be the kind of, one of the early European openers, right? So before TDU existed, before all the Middle Eastern races existed, which none of those are more than 10 or 15 years old, Ruta del Sol was like where Bernard Hinault would go down and like open his season, right? And there's some, it kind of makes sense to do that. And I know that we do want to internationalize the sport, and it's good. Is it good to have races in UAE and Oman? I don't really have an opinion on that, to be honest. I definitely think it's good to have a race in Adelaide at TDU. Like, that's a great way to open the season. But there is the sort of like the fact that this is in Europe, where all of the riders already are. It's nice weather. It's a cool race. It's got gravel in it. It's got hills. We've got currently Wout van Aert just like pinning it on the front for a teammate. Probably, is it Sepp that's in there with him?
Sepp is in there. Ben Tullett was.
Ben Tullett was for a long time. Anyway, we don't want to do live
But
commentary.
That's Ben Tullett's.
That will be six hours old by the time this podcast goes up. Anyway, my point being, great race. It's a cool way to start the season. But again, for me, it's just sort of proof that you can start something now that works, right? So like, as One Cycling starts to come up with whatever they're doing, and our fear is that they start, hammer seriesing everything, right? Like, this is the actual model that you use. Like, you have a cool course. Now they're back in the dirt. It's all dusty, looks rad. It's in a place that makes sense for the rest of the calendar. It attracts, therefore, a bunch of big names who actually seem to care because it's a cool race. Like, the pros don't like racing on giant highways in the Middle East either, right? Like, yeah, Jonathan Milan is stoked about getting his stage win, but they're not. There's no like emotional investment into those races.
Those UAE Tour races, or Qatar or Lula, is where you get the. Was it last year when Jasper Philipsen played a joke on everyone and just he did that? He jumped off his bike, ran alongside a little bit, and then jumped back on. It's where you get all the memes of them chatting and just kind of shooting the shit at the beginning of the season.
And this is cool. So anyway, like it is. It's a formula. Throw some hills in there, a little bit of gravel. That's fun. They're all running 30+ mil tires, like regularly anyway, so they can totally ride all this stuff. And you have a cool early season. I think I know you guys are talking about today being sort of fun from a bike racing perspective. This race deserves a weekend slot from me.
Yep, I think
This
yeah.
needs
No,
a
it
Sunday
does.
morning, right? Like I would have watched it yesterday. Instead, I'm working and have to make a podcast, and then we have an edit call, and so I won't get to watch the end of this, which is unfortunate. Yeah, I think Clásica Jaén is the model for if I was Richard Pluga and I'm trying to figure out like what the calendar is going to look like and whatever. Like this would be one of my early season races. The problem is it won't be because Spain doesn't have oil money, and so it won't be because they
definitely
will continue
not. Couldn't they just look a bit harder? It'd be better for everyone,
right? It would be better for everybody. Yeah, like the early season races in anything that's chasing money is going to go to the UAE.
We should all just
right?
start buying more olive oil. It all comes from Spain anyway.
Good point. You say that no one really cares about the UAE Tour, Caley, but Tadej Pogačar looked like he really cared about trying to win this morning's stage. And maybe it's because he's addicted to winning.
Was he bored out of his mind?
Maybe he was bored out of his mind because the stage was a nice stage to the desert, sure. Like I watched it. It was quite relaxing. It was like a big sort of Windows. It was like a Windows like desktop screensaver for a lot of it. Maybe he wanted to. Maybe if he wins like a stage that he's not expected to, his UAE paymasters like drop off like a duffel bag full of gold bars or something. We don't know how it works. But he went for this kind of uphill sprint this morning quite enthusiastically. Kind of looked like he was maybe going to do it just because you expect.
Well, there was a 9% ramp in the middle of that finale.
Yeah, which didn't dislodge all of the sprinters. A lot of them were still, like a lot of their teams were still, even like Dylan Groenewegen team was looking to set him up, which was interesting to see. Eventually, Pogačar did get he blew up, mistimed it a bit, and whether it was mistimed or it was actually a sprinter's course was proven by Finn Fisher-Black finishing second after Jesper Philipsen was relegated because he swerved out after Jonathan Milan had sort of blown the wheels off him.
And we know that Jonathan Milan can climb. He finished second behind Buitrago on a stage, and Buitrago had attacked late. But yeah, we talk about Ganna going for Milan San Remo. Why would Milan not do the same thing? Get good at climbing. But yeah, just the fact that Finn Fisher-Black, Lennart van Eetvelt, who is the reigning champion of the UAE Tour, and Oscar Onley and Harold Tejada were all in the top 10 ahead of Aman Pog. He's going to be really disappointed. I reckon he thought he was going to win that stage. And
Did
he looked pretty disappointed.
Time or not?
Well, he lost 6 seconds to Finn Fisher-Black on bonuses, but no time. But yeah, did you guys watch it?
Yeah, I watched it.
Yeah, I thought he did definitely look pretty dejected in his full white skin suit. But he got on. I noticed he got on a turbo trainer, and his mechanic was able to lift up the bike with Pogačar on it. Sorry, the mechanic was able to lift up the bike with Pogačar sitting on it to position the front wheel properly on the turbo. And I thought that's just he wasn't even a particularly big mechanic or soigneur, but yeah, but Pogačar looked weighed down with disappointment.
Isn't he just going to win by like 3 minutes on Jebel Hafid in the last stage?
He's got 2 mountains to come, Jebel Jais and Jebel Hafid. And he's got the time trial tomorrow. It's only 12.2k, so it might not be his. He might not take loads of time.
Sorry, so they're already at the UAE Tour. They're already doing the warming down post-race thing. I mean, come on.
Oh yeah, they do it all year.
They used to just not do it at all.
I know. I remember when it first showed up. It was Team Sky that did it, and everyone was like, "Why are you? You just rode for like 7 hours. Why are you still riding?" And then it was, he's like, a cool down is nothing new, right? Like, this is the kind of funny thing about cycling in the 2015s ish, was all these things were creeping into cycling that just like make perfect sense, and it's shocking that no one did them previously. Like, oh yeah, you should just spin your legs out and for 5 minutes. It doesn't make you more tired for the next day; it makes you less.
Also looking down the result sheet, they've a rider for Bardiani, Alessandro Pinarello. So that's a sort of sponsorship activation waiting to happen.
I'm assuming there's no family relation there, but we don't actually know.
Don't know. Not according to Pro Cycling Stats, who are usually pretty good.
They
at
would have got him on
knowing-
Q36.5 if there was. Surely.
True. Can we talk about? So we talked about how to do bike races, right? Clásica Jaén, love it. I think it's my favorite race in February. I think that's safe to say. Unless Omloop falls in February. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. Anyway, that's how to do it. Can we talk about how not to do it?
Are you talking
Speed
about
bump.
the Tour de la Provence?
I'm talking about Tour de la Provence, which generally is a pretty fun race until you put a speed bump in the final 100 meters, which causes a massive crash.
Yeah, see what you were saying about riders not enjoying the sort of motorway racing of the Middle East or of Asia, where you just get stuck on a massive highway. They prefer that from a safety perspective often to sprint finishes. Often found at European bike races where after not much happens during like this, this final sprint day, they come around the corner, one of the final corners leading up to the finish line, and then literally 100 meters to go when everyone's opening up their sprints, there's just like a speed bump. So this happened, stage 3, Tour de la Provence, final stage. Pascal Ackermann is trying to sort of open his sprint against Mads Pedersen.
And Sam Bennett's already off the front.
Sam Bennett, sorry. Sam Bennett who's off the front, yeah.
Well, not off the front, but he's ahead enough that he's already,
He's having to catch him. Sorry, I butchered that. And Pascal Ackermann sort of, it's like a ramp for takeoff because...
It looks like he crumples.
He crashes while almost already not attached to the road because he's sprinting, so he's over his bike and it just crumples and there's the destruction behind him.
Tell you what it looks like. It looks like an AI bike crash. One of those, one of those fake videos.
Yeah, it does. It's how I don't understand. Like usually we talk about like French races being well run, or at least the ASO races are well run, which Tour de Provence isn't, Etoile de Bessèges isn't. That's just, you can see that speed bump when you're setting up the course with 100 meters to go. So at this point, it's negligence. Not even negligence. It's pointed harm because you know exactly what's going to happen. So I don't know how.
I think it's run by the same organisers as Etoile de Bessèges.
Is it actually?
I believe so. CIC.
Wow.
I mean, like speed bumps are quite noticeable in a car. That's kind of the whole point.
Yeah,
actually.
Yeah. All of my previous cars.
The ramps have to go over it. So the ramp, not the ramps, the barriers have to go over it. So it would be visual to a pedestrian.
So I think, given all that, it's clear that they were aware of the speed bump. This is not a surprise speed bump. This didn't pop out of nowhere. They were aware that the speed bump was there, and then made the decision to put the finish line where it was anyway. Now, my guess is there was something like they had permits in place for where the finish line was. There was all sorts of other sort of like local politics around what was happening that particular day and road closures and all the rest, and they felt like they couldn't change it. But that's really not a suitable excuse for sticking a speed bump 100 meters from the finish line.
The other fun thing from this race, won overall by Little Trek's Mads Pedersen, is his final interview, which I think we can rip the audio from and play it. I don't think we'll get in trouble for that. But yeah, let's take a listen, and maybe you can find out what the word is that he can't understand.
Mads, have climbers really been valued today?
Sorry?
Have climbers really valued today?
A clean birth, I don't know what you mean.
Climbers.
I don't know.
Doing the race.
Now, there are multiple things at play here. Obviously, we're not, not like laughing at people who speak in their second languages when I can barely speak one. And this is obviously the situation that unfolds when two people are speaking second languages coming from different ones. But what you've got to appreciate is this is how Mads Pedersen sort of always interacts with the media, regardless of who they are. Like with the flash interview people, that's the organization. You're generally polite to them because that's the TV people. You know, they deserve more respect than just like your average reporter or, fly on the wall media. But him just not Klimbers, to be fair. What a Klimber, I wouldn't understand.
Well, it's yeah, I don't know. It looks like, when you read a word and then you use it in conversation and you pronounce it wrong. I don't want to say that that's it because we're talking about somebody whose first language is not English. And Yeah, it took me about 3 watches to get what he was saying. And Mads Pedersen, whose first language also isn't English, had to get through 2 walls of translation.
Yeah, I think this is a case of the Tour de Provence being a very French race, and obviously the people working for it are going to be very, very French. He was also probably just trying to process how he didn't come a cropper over a speed bump in the final 100 meters and then had a guy saying words he didn't understand at him. But yeah, that's our wrap up of the weekend, really.
Just to tie this back to something we talked about last week. This to me is why we need promotion and relegation of events in addition to promotion and relegation of teams, right? So you screw up enough times, you put speed bump. There's no sort of retribution against these race organizers, right? Like the UCI, I guess, could take away their ability to host the race, but really, or riders could refuse to show up, but that very rarely happens. There's no real incentive to do this properly.
Yeah.
And so that's why they continue to do it. Right?
Yeah, agree.
So you need some sort of they need to see the downside of it. To
be honest, since we started recording, I've just been on a bit of a spiral because fun cycling, as Kit described it, is just so much better than 2 cycling. Now I might have to redo everything. But yeah, I mean, that's a good idea because I honestly don't know how the riders part with, and I think we're bored of talking about it all the time.
The organisers of Tour de la Provence are not the same as the organisers of the Étoile du Passage, but they did organise the women's race, the CIC Tour Féminin International des Pyrénées, which you might remember in 2023 when what was an absolute, I was going to say car crash, which is the wrong language to use because there were cars on the road.
There were.
This was when a lot of the riders, it was a good moment for rider voice. They had to stop the race several times and put the foot down. So it is the same organisers as that race. So they need to, like you say, Caley, when this sort of thing mounts up, especially, they've got to be more consequences for them.
Yeah. There just needs to be a real pyramid, like on a lot of from the team's perspective and from the race perspective. I think we're gonna take a quick break. When we come back, Geraint Thomas is retiring. Let's talk about G. Welcome back, everybody. Let's talk about Geraint Thomas. So he announced today, Monday, that he's retiring at the end of this year, which I can't say is a particularly surprising thing, right? Like we kind of knew this was coming, but it's the finality of it. When it's finally announced, it just feels a bit different. So, chapeau to him, as you would say, Jonny.
Chapeau. I would say that to Geraint Thomas and Geraint Thomas alone. I think. Yeah. Speak his language.
Would he appreciate it?
I think he runs on chapeaus. I think that's what's kept him going for so long. Admittedly, in the video podcast clip he sent out to announce the retirement, he does look more tired than usual. I don't think.
Well, maybe he's taking up the job of Welsh Rugby Union football rugby coach because Warren Gatland has stepped down and they need help.
True, they've lost 19 in a row, haven't they?
Well, I think it's 18 in a row, but
18 now.
Might be 19 now, but it's not good. And he's a big rugby fan, and I've heard great stories about him and his rugby fandom, which I cannot say in public. But yeah.
It's not even an After Dark story?
No, unfortunately not.
No. Oh, that means it's good.
I swore.
So 19 years career.
It's a long time.
Long career.
Yeah. He's 38 years old now.
Not one more year, Geraint.
I appreciate him not just carrying on to get to the round number. Like, people doesn't really mean anything, does it? What are numbers?
You're done.
And he's won I don't think he'd ever presumed or thought he'd won as much as he has. It would be nice if he'd got another like that Giro that he half fumbled to Roglic. That'd have been fun.
Well, this is a question for you, Jonny, as a known British person.
A known British person.
Who's your greatest ever cyclist? Is Geraint Thomas in the running for it?
See, what you're doing here, Caley, is you open up a can of worms between
purposely
whether I identify what I identify as a nationality if Geraint Thomas, as a Welsh cyclist, whether he would be comfortable being British, whether Chris Froome counts as British, or whether he, it's confusing.
Come on. Okay, so he races for Team GB at the Olympics, so it's not up to him anymore. Is he? You all have decided that at the Olympics you are all one nation, so that's how I'm going to see you, and
one nation under God.
Yeah, something like that. So, well, you can't just like depending on the context decide whether your own country or not.
But this is the lifeblood of what actually keeps the UK together. Is that everyone pretends they're not actually from there, and everyone has their own little.
Yeah, well, I'm Scottish. So.
Exactly.
If when you stand on the podium and you get your medal at the Olympics, what plays?
Yeah, I mean, Geraint Thomas would say that he's Welsh first, British second, and I don't think he.
Well, he's so he's Wales's greatest ever cyclist.
Easily, I would say.
Easily.
Yeah.
Okay,
maybe.
So then, okay, that's been established. Now we zoom out.
Right.
Well, he's not better than Mark Cavendish, Sir Mark Cavendish. Sorry.
Are you sure?
Yeah. I think
he's more interesting than Mark Cavendish.
He's much more interesting.
Geraint Thomas
as a winner. As a racer, he's done classics, track. See, I mentioned track. I got it in.
You did get it in.
And Grand Tours.
Yeah, fair enough. But would you say that he won his Tour de France in an interesting way? The interesting bit was more that he wasn't dropped, like Froome lost time and then he just didn't lose time.
It was more interesting than any time Froome's ever won a race.
True, that's true. And also, the Alpe d'Huez win was cool.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Who is in that list?
Thomas is higher than Wiggins, for sure.
Yeah. Lizzie Deignan.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But didn't win, hasn't won I think if you win a tour, that has to set you.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately for her, for the first decade of her career, that wasn't an option.
Okay, from top down, Cavendish, Froome, Thomas, Wiggins.
Is that
for the men?
For me, for the men.
From top down, what was it?
Yeah.
Cavendish,
Froome, Thomas, Wiggins.
Wow.
In my mind, that's just me. One humble British boy.
Yeah, fair enough. Can I put Chris Hoy in? But part of both Geraint Thomas and Bradley Wiggins' exploits have been on the track. They're kind of well-rounded rider type pedigree. Same with Cavendish.
Cavendish is a road world champion. Pretty cool.
Yeah, and T as well.
British. Well, it's just nice that we have such a plethora of talent to discuss, whereas the Americans are still chatting about Sepp Kuss's Vuelta win that they let him win. So
I mean, the interesting thing about that is all those riders occurred at the same time, right? And then now they're all gone.
Well, then we got Pidcock and the Yates twins, who are kind of. It'll be interesting to see what happens in the next couple of years. We're kind of in the Yates twins, or on the tail end of the Yates twins era now.
Tail end of the Yates, they're early 30s, right?
Yeah. Well, they're both going to be at the Giro, and hopefully that'll be fun.
I was trying to put Geraint Thomas in context.
I think I would put Geraint Thomas personally out of his racing exploits in a kind of more well-rounded, more interesting sort of way, more storied way. Mark Cavendish wins sprints, good for him. But yeah, Geraint Thomas I would put top. I might.
What about Froome? I mean, Froome won a lot more tours.
He did win he did, but he's not a particularly interesting person.
Froome was a more dominant bike racer in his day.
Thomas helped Froome win. Froome didn't help Thomas win. Spin zone. The big question for me now is where Geraint Thomas goes from here. Obviously, he's going to double down on sort of being cycling's Joe Rogan. Not in that way, but more just like podcaster that's everywhere. All the guests, whatever. People have already suggested he goes on Strictly Come Dancing, which would probably be very fun. Would probably have to write a lot about that.
He would be knocked out in the first week. Cyclists couldn't go on that show.
All of Wales would be voting for him. It wouldn't be first week. They always get some.
I suppose, yeah.
I think he could carry through. The main thing about Geraint Thomas is that he was sort of the opposite of Cavendish, who was a bit combative, spiking his questioning. Geraint Thomas is what you can always say about him is that he's actually a lovely man. And that's what counts for the most. He's very polite, seems very normal, probably quite fun behind closed doors, away from the public eye. And yeah, chapeau.
Chapeau indeed.
That's my official chapeau.
Have either of you ever done an interview with Thomas?
Yeah, he was just riding past in the mix zone of the Tour and going fairly slowly, and I was just like, oh, I'm not doing anything, I'll just see if he wants to chat. And he was like, yeah, sure. Which no, they never do. They all suddenly weirdly go deaf as they're riding past you in the mix zone about 6 feet away from you.
Yeah, I've never done like a big sit down. I've never done like an hour sit down kind of thing.
When you do
Thomas,
I think I did a 30 minutes one where or a couple of Zooms, and if you do a Zoom with him, he'll always be lying face down. So you're
topless. He usually is topless on the podcast.
I don't think he was topless. I think he especially when he doesn't know you, he's like, I should probably wear a top for this. But he's sort of holding the camera like underneath his chin, sort of thing. Very relaxed. It's quite disarming actually to interview someone.
I suppose as somebody who makes a living out of having their body, not on show, but it's not very, modest.
in spandex.
Probably doesn't care what he looks like.
Yeah,
frankly.
Yeah.
But no,
I always appreciated his professionalism. I think that was the big thing. Like you said, Jonny, he's just a genuinely nice guy. Very, very, very good bike racer. Very versatile bike racer. Right, like everything from the track to classics to Tour de France. Like that for me makes him a significantly more interesting rider than somebody like a Cav or a Froome or something like that. And yeah, like he would stop anytime you wanted him to, which was incredible. Because that sort of whole period where Sky was so dominant, it was harder to get to them back then than like in the last couple of years for sure. But he would still always say yes to the chat, and I always really appreciated that. And I think that it ingratiated him to the press, which means I think the press was nicer to him, right?
Yeah,
like
that's how it works.
Yeah, like part of the reason why we've talked about Cav enough on this podcast to know listeners will know our general opinion on him as a person. Like if you treat the press nice, then they treat you pretty well. And I think that Thomas realized that relatively early, and I think he's just genuinely a nice guy, and it worked out in his favor. Like there's not going to be a whole lot of hand wringing about his personality as he steps out the door, as there was with some other folks.
He had cultural cut through. I think he's probably the main proponent of chapeau, and then foi as well. Foi. Foi. When words can't sum up, and you can use it for anything, any question, you can just say foi. So that will live longer than him racing.
Yeah. So yeah, keep an eye on this year. Last year for Geraint Thomas. Congratulations on a great career. 19 years, like you said, Jonny. Let's move over to Tadej Pogačar and Paris-Roubaix.
Yes. Main thing is he obviously, we spoke about this, his basically viral video of him reconning the cobbles. He then arrives at the UAE Tour over the weekend has a pre-race press conference, as you do. Obviously, the questions immediately are about Paris-Roubaix because that's what everyone's talking about. He's like,
nobody's interested in the UAE Tour.
No one's really, I'm sure they'll ask some questions. They'll get to that. They'd get to that. But
there's some local reporters who will ask.
Yeah, there's,
By how much are you going to win today?
Yeah. No, they ask like, what do you think about the cultural?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing let me just look up one of the locations. Are you looking forward to witnessing the Abu Dhabi breakwater at the final of stage 6? He'll say, yes, it is lovely. This is what I come here for. Anyway, he responds to questions about Paris-Roubaix by saying, I'm here at the UAE Tour. I'm here to talk about the UAE Tour. I'm not really here to talk about Paris-Roubaix. It's like, well, then you probably don't drop the Paris-Roubaix recon video just before. But they've kind of been working.
What if he dropped a UAE Tour recon video? Oof. Yeah.
Yeah. The bit of Abu Dhabi breakwater recon.
Dozens of likes.
Dozens of likes. But so he said, let's just focus on that. Obviously, that wasn't enough, especially for the Belgian reporters, who then managed to corner Mauro Giannetti, who, like they do, and he doesn't mind chatting. And he said that the video was kind of a joke, that Roubaix wasn't on Pogačar's schedule, and he just went along with Tim Wellens. He had to Pogačar had to train that day anyway. Tim Wellens was doing the recon. So then, want some company, go on a training ride, that sort of thing. Wellens obviously films a video. Pogačar can't resist getting the Instagram likes in. So then it all blows up from there. But then Wellens gives an interview. They're all doing interviews, the UAE lot. Time of year for it, isn't it? Got to sell that Abu Dhabi breakwater. He told a publication called the Wheeler Review, but it's definitely not pronounced like that. It's a Dutch title, I think. He said, if Tadej starts, which I don't know, then all of the UAE riders, and then of all the UAE riders, he has the best chance of winning. In all the 29 sectors of Roubaix that we sort of reconned, he rode me off his wheel on all of them. Whereas Giannetti was, I missed that bit, sorry. Giannetti was trying to say, Tim Wellens, he's the guy for Roubaix, for, one of our main guys. But Wellens is like, no, Pogačar.
Wellens might be in Pog's pocket as a kind of co-conspirator. But yeah, I mean, I think Giannetti is a good PR man, and he'll say what he needs to say until the truth comes out.
They've got a good system going. Like they all say different things. We all spend time trying to figure out because we're dumb. The good bit was an interview with Mathieu van der Poel where they asked him about it, and he sort of gave him he shrugged in a way that I don't think I'd be able to shrug. Just like the whole of his body and face all shrugged at once in a very nonchalant way. When asked what he thought about Pogačar doing Roubaix, he's like, I haven't really thought about it. I don't know what his schedule is. But if he races it, I'm not losing any sleep over it. So kind of fun.
That's the second time he's used that phrase in a month. Because
just before
Wout van Aert, just as Wout van Aert confirmed he was going to be at the World Championships, Van der Poel was asked, "What do you think?" He says, "Don't you lose any sleep over it." It's becoming his tagline, which is great.
He's sponsored by Whoop, so he knows his sleep score every single night.
There we go.
Yeah.
So he knows.
See, he knows. He's like, literally, I have not lost any sleep over it. Got 9 hours last night. We're good to go.
I think secretly Van der Poel is losing sleep over it because Paris-Roubaix is his chance for the biggest sponsor activation of the year of using Alpecin shampoo in the Roubaix showers. And I reckon that is a significant proportion of the Mathieu van der Poel GDP.
Can we talk about Demi Vollering? And her utter lack of respect?
I was wondering if you're going to talk about racing or champagne.
No, we're talking about champagne.
Yeah.
Tell me about it, Kit.
So she beat former teammates, well, sort of former team compatriots. I don't know. Anyway, Marlon Ruser, who's now at Movistar, and Anna van der Breggen, who used to be Vollering's coach. Both of them were within a minute of her, but there was only really one GC stage, and yesterday Elisa Balsamo won. But on the final podium, obviously there was a champagne moment, was it Vollering who squirted the champagne first? Yeah, you put it in spin cycle, so over to Jonny.
I misread the post of it off the bat and thought that she'd got it with a champagne cork, Binny Gamai style, but that wasn't the case.
No, she knows what she's doing with
but
champagne.
Such was the energy with which the champagne left the bottle that it looked like it could have. Anyway, Van der Breggen gets Vollering first, but Vollering's first place podium in the middle is significantly higher, or high enough that she's then at the perfect angle to just get her straight back.
She's got the high ground.
It's very, very Star Wars. And then switches it round. She also does it like a sort of no-look champagne spraying on Van der Breggen. It's quite sleek. And then turns the bottle around and gets Marlon Ruser in so in the eye. Like, it couldn't be more in the eye. And also, she's then holding the bottle like a few inches away. And you can see both of them recoil. It's quite, seems a bit Machiavellian. I think it's all in good taste. They're all kind of laughing, but it was not lost on me that it was Demi Vollering with her loving her new life at FDJ and one former, one current SD Works Pro Time, merchants.
Yep. Just spraying him in the face.
Just saying.
Yeah. So can we talk really briefly about Anna van der Breggen? So obviously Van der Breggen retired, was in a director's car for a while, and has come back this season and is already third, 37 seconds back off of Vollering. If you're Vollering, are you quite concerned by this? I mean, you would think it would take a while to come back.
Yeah, I think it's less a question is Vollering concerned and more a question is Kopecky, because Kopecky is supposed to be the Tour de France team for SD Works, and suddenly Van der Breggen is bloody good. And yeah,
Are
it's
they going to
so
have
I
a Tudent, a Movistar like Tudent?
there we go. Yeah. So and then interestingly, I don't know what Kopeck's program is, but I saw a quote over the weekend, and it may be old, but it was doing the rounds again, perhaps because Van der Breggen is back in the picture. But saying Kopecky was saying it will be on the team will be all in to prevent me from losing time in the mountains, which felt, if that was relevant for the time, that's kind of saying, yeah, I see, but it's mine. But stranger things have happened than team infighting.
It wouldn't be SD Works if they didn't have like two of the best riders fighting for leadership to kind of undo their own chances.
Well, they'll also have Lorena Wiebes.
Yeah, exactly.
For the sprint,
so it's all going to be a borderline mess once again, which might be what eventually gives Vollering the yellow jersey.
I think Vollering wins this Tour.
I think Vollering wins this Tour. Yeah, I mean, she's got a bloody good team as well.
It'd be a French team winning a Tour de France. That'd be fun.
Well, and even like, we're talking about the stage, right? Stage 4 of Valenciana, where Vollering won and Van der Breggen was third and Rooster was up there. Like most of the riders that were up there are actually kind of more punchy than Vollering tends to be. So I wouldn't say that this is a perfect route for her, and she still won, right? Like I think she is pretty dominant this season, more so than previous years. I think that's what we're going to see.
I think also the rivalry between Van der Breggen, or just the not wanting to get beaten by Van der Breggen, is worth a significant number of watts. Like you see your former coach like chasing you, who's quite a bit older than you, made a comeback. You do not want to lose.
And she's got the super focused team, right? So like, if she's riding for FDJ last year, I think she would have won the Tour, for example, with the same group that she's got this year, right? Because there's no confusion about that sprint finish. There's no, all the like that when she lost that time. I think she probably wins last year's Tour de France. We're gonna take a quick break. When we come back, a hot air balloon crash at a cyclocross race.
Yes,
sweet. And Alejandro Valverde is still racing. We got a gravel update. All right, we'll be right back. Welcome back, everybody. Before we get cyclocross, which, as much as I do love a good hot air balloon crash, returning to Clásica Jaén, currently, was it second place? Isaac Del Toro.
So he's a third man chasing.
Third man chasing. I got about 5 minutes behind. Now I'm all confused. Anyway, it just reminded me that he exists, because last year he was very he was all over the place in sort of the early season, kind of like right now, right? Great ride at TDU, etc. And then was not anonymous, but a little quiet rest of the season, right? And it just reminded me that he is out there, and I really, really hope that we get to talk more about him this year, because I really like his style, and I just really love the idea of a like real top tier Mexican rider. I think that is super, super, super cool. Like there's the sort of Central America has not come with the South American kind of like blossom in the last 10 years, right? The Colombians and like Ecuador and all the rest. And so to have a Mexican at the front of these races is really, really cool. There's a college kid here in town who's going to go do a bunch of racing in Mexico at the end of the like kind of early fall this year. And I've asked him if he wants to write some stuff about it, because the scene down there is cool. Like they do these big kind of kermesse like events, and like the prize money is actually really, really good. And there's a really cool scene down there. And it's just not a scene that sort of makes its way into I think the English speaking consciousness all that often. So
I don't think it's particularly fair to say he was anonymous last year. I mean, we are talking about.
I said he wasn't quite anonymous, but he definitely like the first month of the season, we're like, oh my god, he's going to be the new, Tade or something like that, and then
but he's on Tade's team, so he's like even as one of the best 20-year-old in the peloton. He was like 5th or 6th in the UAE lot. He had a good. I mean, for a first time, a 20-year-old at the Vuelta, 3 top 10s.
Yeah, well, he's going to the Giro. He could do something at the Giro.
Yeah, he's
won
only
Asturias.
21. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's no question he's a very, very, very good bike racer. He just sort of, I think, because that team is so good, we didn't see him at the Tour. We didn't he was a little bit quieter the rest of the season until the Vuelta.
The funny thing is that 10 years ago, he would have been completely anonymous because he'd have been fetching bottles for 2 years.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Even more good podcast, and I'm now going to talk about a video that I saw. It was at the Exact Cross on Saturday, while the riders are sort of going around in the mud for the final few races of the season.
What a summary!
Yeah, you can do the real summary afterwards if you want to get. But they were going around in the mud doing things. But then the TV
doing
camera
cyclocross,
doing things, getting muddy. It cuts to a hot air balloon that has, it's got a logo on it, whatever, it's advertising somewhere or other, but it's kind of descending. It's slowly going down. Cuts back to the riders doing the mud things, and then cuts back to the hot air balloon, and it cuts in just before the hot air balloon hits the water of a lake. And so the hot air balloon had crashed mid cyclocross race. I think it hit the water at not a speed enough that I fear for the people in their lives, which is why we can make light of it. But it was
what
fantastic.
if they couldn't swim? It's probably quite cold.
I think they were. I think we would have heard about it by now if something bad had happened. But yeah, that was really fun. And we'll put the video on the YouTube version just to see, because it got sent in by P. Bearski on Discord, who also gives a commentary over the top, knowing mine and Caley's sort of not exact desire to watch cyclocross, and was like, this is why you watch cyclocross. And it's like, you know what, I probably would have watched a full season of cyclocross if I'd known this moment was going to come up.
Just some slightly ominous footage at the Exact Cross race. This is why you watch all the cross. Nice.
Yeah, just get something like that in every race. I don't know what an equivalent is, but it was fun.
Well, Joris Nieuwenhuis knocked himself over in, I think, the same race, trying to leap back onto his bike. He overshot and he went base over apex. It was quite amusing.
Oh, really? Who won the weekend's races? Do you know?
I can't remember. Oh, Niels van der Putte. Caley, you're muted, but that doesn't matter.
Post world. Sorry, I was clearing my throat. The post world's cross stuff doesn't make any sense to me at all. It's kind of like I love Lombardia, but I would love Lombardia way more if it wasn't after Worlds every year. Yeah, it's cool. The only cool thing about it is that you get to go see whoever the new world champ is, right? Like, that's why Lombardia is cool. That's why these races after, it's kind of like post-tour crits almost, like you just get to show the jersey off. But if you want, I'm not saying that they're fixed. I'm just saying that that's like kind of the structural point of them. But like Lombardia is genuinely an incredible and very, very hard bicycle race. And you stick it at the end of the season after Worlds. So everyone's all like crushed from getting ready for Worlds. And then they have to go turn around and race Lombardia. Stupid.
The
race, make it race of the growing leaves and put it in.
That's what I've said. That's what I've said. Two slight / fun cycling. Other update, non-road based updates that are very important. Alejandro Valverde is clearly not taking his job as the new Spanish men's national coach too seriously yet, because he's out racing UCI Gravel World Cup Series and winning them. And he's won the first, one round in 2025 near Valencia, won by like 15 seconds over someone. So that's happening. He's 44 years old. Not that, surely
there was some massive gravel
attention.
race near Girona over the weekend that Ronan was at.
Yes, that wasn't the same one. That was a different one.
No, that's one that the real gravel races like. I think Valverde's just playing up to the UCI and doing the UCI gravel races, because the spirit of gravel isn't at the UCI, is it, guys? We know
it was
this.
It was at the Ronan race where.
I mean, let me tell you that, like, looking at the photos or the video from the front of the race in Girona, it doesn't look like the spirit of gravel either to me. You've got aero socks and aero helmets and like 35 millimeter bars and centimeter bars and like all sorts of horrible aerodynamic atrocities. Like, no.
35 millimeter bar sounds incredibly airy.
That would be very narrow. Yeah, like we need some bags. We need like a Camelback. We need like some of those, like the water bottles you can put in your fork, like stick them on the side. That's the spirit of gravel. That's what we're going for.
Alejandro Valverde. Nothing has been less the spirit of gravel though than Alejandro Valverde winning a gravel race.
No, that is correct. No, genuinely, the Santaval, I think, was the name of the gravel race in Girona over the weekend. Looked super fun. I'm kind of making fun of it because, they all look like roadies on the front because they are. But it does genuinely, like, the course looks really, really cool. And I think it's just it's a nice kind of amalgamation of the like Euro gravel style with a little bit more of the kind of American gravel style, right? It's like it's really rough, it's bumpy, it's a hard day. It's more technically difficult than what the UCI has been tending to put together in their series. So it's a good kind of mix there, but it still has the kind of real high performance angle on it, which is not something that I guess that does exist in the US, but I mean, to be blunt, like the level's just kind of lower over here at this point because you don't have all the random road pros showing up with megawatts.
Do you want to know what else is in the spirit of gravel? Greg Van Avermaet has a gravel team. It contains 3 people, including Greg. One of the others is a former professional footballer. And they are, of course, called let me just find this out. They are called the GVA Gold Gravel team because he won the Olympics, if you didn't know that. So
and they're on BMC, obviously.
Yes, obviously. Gravel is, have we reached peak gravel yet? Or is this like a weird, like difficult second album era? And then we're going to get back to like what actually made it.
Yeah, what we're doing is we're approaching non-American peak gravel. American peak gravel
Euro trash peak gravel.
Yeah, exactly. So we've crested the American peak gravel hill. In fact, I think Alex, one of our tech writers, is working on a story on this front, and I don't know what actual conclusion he came to because we came in with this question: have we reached peak gravel? My hypothesis was yes, we have. I have heard anecdotally that the American kind of bike industry is supporting gravel racers a lot less than they were a year or two ago. Now that may be simply because the industry is in dire straits at the moment, but I think it's also because they're just seeing less need and less return on those marketing dollars than they did a couple years ago. It certainly feels to me like we're kind of over the hump a little bit. I'm not saying it's going to collapse like Cyclocross did here.
It's just not quite in the pump that it was.
It's just not growing, so there's not less sort of like excitement around it. But the Euro scene is growing rapidly, right? Tons of cool events. This race in Girona, lots of like, not even former road pros, but like current road pros who kind of switch over and do the kind of privateer thing. There's a lot of that happening. So there's a lot to talk about. Maybe we should pull some more. Like I think for this podcast. Like I don't think it really fits for us to be talking about like the sort of spirit of gravel. But when we get the intersection with the kind of roady gravel,
or like hot air balloon crashes,
or hot air balloon crashes, then I think that has a place for us. I mean, Clásica Jaén, it's just a gravel race, right? That's why it's cool. Yeah,
true. No lies detected.
No lies detected. What a way to finish the podcast. I'm going to start a petition to move Clásica Jaén to a Sunday so I can watch the whole thing without making a podcast at the same time. Because it's a great race. It's at least this February, because I think Omloop is in March this year.
Yeah, first weekend. It's 1st of March, in fact.
There you go. So this year, this is my favorite race in February. We're going to wrap it up there. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Interesting show today. No one big topic. Just lots of little things we wanted to talk about. I hope you all enjoyed it. We're going to head into After Dark, as we always do. Make sure that you sign up to become a member. Head over to escapecollective.com/member. And members, we'll see you in a second.